Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. We've shown a lot of the polymer wonders lately, so I wanted to kind of get back to some metal frame guns for a bit. Please don't forget to check out our website. Go to our affiliates page. You'll find discount codes for things like Mantis Axe and Core belts, linked to that cool little bore light that we use for lighting up the barrels. Use those links. It will often save you money, never will cost you any additional money, and helps the channel. Thank you. So what I've got here on the table is just kind of representative. There's a number of different models and flavors of these various different guns. This is a CZ75BD. The CZs are really popular with competition. They're really nice guns. And this one is 9, all of these are 9mm. So this particular one is the longest of all of them. It's 8.1 inches long. And its magazines, if I get turned the right way, hold 15 rounds. They've got a bit of a base plate on them. This base plate does not extend the capacity. You see it kind of comes up the side of the magazine. So this gun has got a double action, single action trigger. It's a very, very nice trigger. It's light, it's short. Now the reset on this is a little bit on the long side for one of these metal frame style guns, and there's a little take up after the reset, but the break on it is really short and crisp. And being a DASA, it's actually got a fairly nice double action, and I can of course do double action or single action. This particular one is the BD, so it's got a decocker. So if it were cocked and I operate what looks like the safety lever, it's really just a decocker, but it doesn't stay in the safe position. There's also a version of this that stays in the safe position. These have the internal drop safety. They don't have the inertial toggle. And these are just a pleasure to shoot. They're a steel frame, this particular one. There also are alloy and polymer frame variants of the CZ75. The CZ75 action, the base action of this gun, is there's numerous variations, numerous clones. It's kind of almost like a 1911 in that it's become a very popular overall design. Really low profile slide. These are a pleasure to shoot. This particular one has 3-dot luminescent sights, which are really easy to see at the range if they've had light on them, but they're not truly night sights because the luminescent will fade fairly quickly after they're out of the light. But there's various different sights you can get for these, either right from the factory or to be replace them because the sights are replaceable. But it's got a little bit of texture here on the top to cut down glare. These work well, they're very reliable. And as I mentioned earlier, this basic design, not necessarily this specific one, but this basic design is real popular with the competition crowd. These are a lot of fun to shoot. They're a little bit on the thinner side. The overall profile is a little bit thinner. So if you've got larger hands, they may not fit as well as some of the thicker versions of these. But like any other metal frame gun, you can change the grip so you can get thicker grips. So the next one that I've got sitting here is over here is a Sig. And of course Sig is well known for their metal frame guns, and until they got into the P229 and some of the others, they were really known for them. It has a 15 round magazine, metal magazines. These are coated for corrosion resistance. And this is a P229. This happens to be the Talo Elite version, but there's numerous variations of the 229. There's also the 226, which is a little bit larger version, and a very rarely seen version of 224 that's a subcompact. It's got a shorter grip. Those are really rare. You don't see them very often. This particular one is chambered in 9mm, and this is a real pleasure to shoot at the range. This is the only one on the table that has an alloy frame, and it's a very well done frame, and this particular one is Cerakoted. The sights on this are the Sig 3-dot night sights. So they've got a ring around them to make them easy to pick up during the day, and then of course the tritium vial for in the evening. So this is also a DASA. This particular one has the SRT trigger, short reset trigger. So there's a little bit of take up. You're all the way at the back, almost thinking, okay, I've run out of trigger. And kind of a crisp break, but it's super, super short. And then if you go forward a little bit, there's the entire reset, and you're right on the wall. You can kind of feel it, and you do hear it, and then the short, crisp break again. The triggers on these are just awesome. Now, had it in a cocked position, Sig does have decockers, so I pull this all the way down, and it decocks the gun safely. This does not have the inertial toggle in the trigger, but it does have the internal drop safeties. And, as I mentioned, it's a D8 gun, so you can pull the trigger. It's a fairly smooth double action. It's a little bit heavier than the CZ, but it doesn't stack or misbehave in any way. So it's a nice double action trigger, but it's just a little bit on the heavier side. So this is the second one I've shown that's a DASA. Of course, the first time you pull the trigger, if it's not cocked, when it cycles, it'll be in single action mode. So the first pull will be heavier, and then subsequent pulls will be lighter. But these are a pleasure to shoot at the range. They're a little bit thicker, the grips on these, and the overall frames are a little bit thicker, but the length of the slide is a little bit shorter on this one. The slide on this particular one is the shortest of the three, and it's also, due to its alloy frame, the lightest of the three. So the CZ75 has been around for a long time. The 2 series SIGs have been around for a very long time. And you might think in the age of polymer wonders that the whole concept of new metal frame guns is dead. That's proving not to be true. So Walther used to make metal frame guns. Then they got into the polymers with the P99, the PPQ. And they've gotten back to making metal frames guns again. This is the Q4 SF, and there's also a Q5 match. The Q5 is actually becoming quite popular with the competition crowd as well. 15-round magazine in this, and it is a striker-fired gun as opposed to a hammer gun. The other two that are on the table, and typically with metal frame guns, they tend to be hammer-fired. This one's a striker-fired. So its trigger is very similar to a PPQ. And then, of course, this is heavily based on the PPQ. So I'm going to pull the take up. Kind of a slightly longer break, and it's a really soft break. And there's the reset. It's a short reset like the PPQ. It's not quite as short as the SRT on that 229. And then a nice crisp break. But this is a striker gun with no double strike capability. So it has to be cycled in order to work. Now, most of the time when people talk about striker guns, they'll talk about them as being DA, because the trigger does 2 actions. It finishes the cocking of the striker, and then it releases the striker. So there's your double action, your 2 actions. The PPQs and those based on the PPQ are closer to single action because they have a fully cocked striker. So in those, the trigger is simply releasing the striker when you pull it. So being a striker gun, but operating more towards like the single action because the trigger only has one thing to do, release the striker. But given that, either way, like most of the polymer wonders right now, you have to have it cycled in order for it to work, and if it doesn't go off, you have to cycle it to get it operational again. This particular one has had the sights replaced with fiber optic. They come with a very nice set of 3-dot sights, but just like the PPQs, they are replaceable, and you can replace them with whatever ones you want. These happen to actually be tritium fiber optic, so these are the TFO sights. So they're a full night sight, but during the day, they're very easy, bright and easy to see. The front one's got a white ring around it. But the factory sights that it comes with, despite not being night sights, are a really nice bright 3-dot. This one has 2 safeties. It has the inertial toggle on the trigger, and it has the internal drop safety, and it has no thumb safety or decocker, which is consistent with the way the PPQ series works. These fit in the hand really nice. All 3 of these, and I'll pick the other 2 up, have a nice beaver tail that comes out and prevents you from either hammer bite on the hammer ones or slide bite on either of them. You would really have to try to get slide bit by any one of these. You can see that the beaver tail is coming right out, and it's contoured to my hand. It fits right in there. So you get up nice and high, you've got an undercut on the trigger, full 3-finger grip even without the magazine. Just a really comfortable gun to hold. Now if I go back to the SIG has a very pronounced beaver tail as well. They hook up a little bit, but the same thing kind of applies. If I lock this back, the slide's way up here, and the hammer is up behind this beaver tail and fully protected by the beaver tail. So to get slide bit or hammer bit by one of these is a very difficult task. And the CZ as well. I'll just go ahead and lock that back right now. The beaver tail is a little less pronounced on that, and you'll notice that the hammer does come back behind the beaver tail. If you've got thicker hands and your skin tends to fold up like that, it's possible you could get slide bit by this particular one. Actually not slide bit, more likely hammer bit, because the slide's way up here. But it's possible on this particular version to get hammer bit. I have never gotten hammer bit, but I can imagine if somebody's hands are a little bit thicker, a little bit puffier, that might happen. Different versions of the CZ75 design have more pronounced beaver tails or have the hammer bobbed so that it doesn't come past the beaver tail. You might be a little less likely. So if you're somebody that does get hammer or slide bit frequently, the Sig or the Walther is going to probably be less likely to do that to you, or a different variation of the CZ75 itself. As far as all three of these go, they all have replaceable grips, even the Q4, which of course you don't get with the polymer PPQs. You do get back straps, but not the whole grip. The Sig tends to be the prettiest. Sig really does focus on making nice looking guns. Even the basic variant of it, just the regular black version of it, they look nice. CZs are just unique. They're interesting, and it's a really unique design. So they've all got something going for them. Overall, if I could only pick one of them, price might come into play. These tend to be in the sixes, between 6 and 8, give or take. These tend to go no less than 900 and then up, depending on which flavor or version of it you get. And the Q4 the MSRP is around $14.50. So this MSRP is the most expensive of the ones on the table in any version. This one you can get less expensive and significantly more expensive versions, but if your budget is constrained, you can get a Sig definitely less expensive than you can get this. And the CZ, any day of the week, you can get a variant of the CZ75 design, $500, $600, $700. So, but if you were to say money's not the concern, budget's not the concern, Sigs are definitely the prettiest. So if I was really looking for something nice to look at, something just cool to hold, the fact that it's a classic machine, all the controls and levers, the Sig would catch my attention. If I had to just pick one though, and it would be the Walther. Basically, I'm getting the best of both worlds. I'm getting all the functionality, the trigger, and everything else like I would get in a polymer PPQ, that modern overall design, but I'm getting it in a nice metal frame. This is the heaviest of them. It's a steel frame. It weighs 39.7 ounces. So at the range, this thing is an absolute pleasure to shoot. All of these could be concealed carry, but the polymer ones just do that better. These are range day guns. These are competition guns. These are fun day guns. They're just overall a nice design, but they're less practical in today's modern technology than various Glocks and XDMs or even the PPQ that this is based on. Beyond that, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, click that bell up there to be notified if you do. Check us out on Patreon, Facebook, Rumble, Instagram, Getter, Twitter. We're kind of everywhere. And thank you.